Hey guys, Sherlock here. So AGS has announced the new artifacts coming in Season 7. Now, this is my initial look at them. Overall, they all seem pretty bad. I don't think there's anything better breaking here. I don't think there's going to be anything really that we're striving towards getting. This may end up changing later on, but so far I'm not impressed. So first up we have a Dorgort blade, which is a rapier. It's kind of a nice skin, and that's about all this rapier's got going for it. It's got heavy melee attacks on either weapon, cause 10% burning for 5 seconds. Trenchant strikes, refreshing move. And then just the chosen last perk. You're getting this one by defeating Ifrit in a mutated Imperium Forge. I wouldn't even bother trying to farm this one unless you want the skin. This is not going to be useful for anything. This is not what Rapier is used for. And there's much better options for this as well. Like Venom. A bow we'll see later on in the new artifacts here. I just struggle to see where this weapon fits into anything. Possibly you could use it with a spear if you're just going for like some burning damage and bits and pieces, but then you would just go finisher offhand for the extra 15% damage from it. There's so many weapons that are going to outclass this. I just can't see where this is going to be useful. Next up we have Shrapnel. This one here is probably going to be decent in PvP. You get this one from OPRs, I'm assuming from the caches, and it says it unleashes devastating bleeds with precision. Shrapnel enhances musket gameplay by focusing on damage over time effects, creating opportunities for sustained combat dominance. I like how here they've kind of said why they feel like this weapon is good. And they haven't put that at all up here with the Rapier, because whoever designed this Rapier knows that it's bad, man. Yeah. So this musket, it's going to give you a 10% bleed for 10 seconds on critical hits. Keenly jagged and vicious. Pretty standard musket perks here. I assume you'd end up putting something like a powder burn or something on this. This guy here could be quite good. Male Oreo will probably be the one to ask specifically on this weapon. Whether the 10% bleed outperforms just having a finisher offhand is the other question. This one here could be good in PvP where you've managed to get a shot or two off and then they've run away, but at least it's still kind of ticking away in the meantime. So this one maybe see some use there. The biggest issue with PvE is usually your artifact is so important, so it's either going to be a main hand weapon or you're looking at something like Finisher or Inferno to boost your damage in your offhand. So even though these things like adding bleeds and adding burns are nice, they're never going to outvalue those other ones like Inferno or Finisher, etc. We have the first new earring in a while called Justice here, which is earned through completing influence races. It's an earring that symbolizes righteousness, providing healing benefits for those on the battlefield. Now this one here, after taking 20 hits, you get a potion surge for 60 seconds, instantly recharging your next healing potion. Another PvP one, I think. Especially kind of like melee clump PvP. I don't think it'll see much value outside of that. If they ever fix Elemental Ban, that's going to be best in slot for most PvE builds. So I don't really see this taking over, especially with Healing Heart on here. Healing for 10% of your max health when using Heart Rune abilities. This is definitely another PvP item here, along with the musket. It really seems the theme they're going for Season 7 is pushing into PvP, with the seasonal servers being PvP zones, and a lot of these here being PvP focused. Looks like they've kind of put PvE on the back burner for a little while. Now, the next one here is a Burnanator, which is a ridiculous name for a fire staff. This one here says the trade-off of base damage allows for strategic application in prolonged fights. So a Burnanation is a fire staff skill, and heavy attacks deal 33% less damage, but they cause 15% extra burning for 5 seconds. I don't think this is going to be one we see in PvE. The burning could be nice to stack at the beginning of fights, but the issue is, like, let's say you're going to run Spear Inferno or Rapier Inferno, then you're missing out on the extra 15% damage on your main hand, just for some extra burning ticks, so you're never going to see it there. In PvP, I'm not sure, I'm not a PvP expert. I imagine there'll be use cases there, but even then I feel like the fire staff is more of like a burst weapon. Possibly you'd pair this with like a blunderbuss, stack all your burning abilities with your fire staff, switch to your blunderbuss, and try and burst them down that way. Now Aconite the bow, this one here is probably one of the only ones I could see end up being used in some PvE situations. So this one here deals an extra 15% more damage to poison enemies. It's got poison tip where heavy attacks apply poison. enchanted, and refreshing move. Now, I'm just curious whether you can add another perk to this or it's going to have a gem slot. Just because it's got the 2 abilities here, plus these 2. Whereas if we look at some of the other ones, they've only got 3. So this one here, you may not be able to put a gem slot, or you may not be able to put another perk. You might have to end up choosing between those, just looking at that. Now this one's interesting because this is what we've been talking about through the rest of the video, is Finisher and Inferno giving you 15% more damage to your other weapon. This one here is doing the same, deal 15% more damage to poison enemies. So this here could be useful for those people that like running, let's say, a bow in the end bosses in the Hive of Gorgon, or even something like in the Worm. Some of the Rapier players or some of the pad players up the top could look at running this with a VG offhand. Could be quite solid. So I can see this getting a little bit of use case. The only issue is this, enchanted. So with the bow, you usually want Disdain Affliction or you want Vicious, because a lot of your damage comes from your abilities. Whether in PvE, that's rapid shot spam. Things like invasions, you've got your rain of arrows, etc. So enchanted is not great on a bow. So this here alone could end up stopping this being kind of a main hand option for any situations, and more into kind of a niche offhand scenario. Next up, we've got the Ice Gauntlet. This one here is probably one of the ugliest skins so far. Looks like they tried to recreate Thanos' glove, but they messed up. And let's see if they messed up on the perks. So it's obtained through crafting and trials. It's designed to emphasize sustain and resilience encased in frozen shards, designed to channel the chilling power of ice magic. Now the frozen tomb, hitting a target within tomb's break will inflict them with the frostburn, slowing their move by 10% and dealing 10% of your weapon damage every second for 5 seconds. So basically you can pop your entomb, sit in it for a couple seconds, heal up a little bit, explode it. It's going to slow the enemy and it's going to put a burn on them. So if you're trying to, let's say in PvP, escape someone, jump into entomb, heal up, pop. When they got the slow, just gap it out of there. And it keeps a bit of a burn on them too. That's probably the main scenario I could see that being used for. It's got Vicious and Refreshing Move, which are generally pretty good on Ice Gauntlets. I think it'll see PvP use. I don't think it's ever going to see any PvE use, which kind of goes along the theme of the rest of these artifacts today. Zero use for PvE, mild use for PvP, I would say, for that one. Now the Life Staff. This one here we were kind of excited for when they announced about it having protection on abilities. Now that I've read it, this is not going to be very useful. Let's go through it a little bit here. So we're defeating Perthiconid to earn this Radiant Staff, and amplifies the power of light spells. So Light's Touch enhances heavy attacks after casting abilities, granting it 30% damage absorption. So we've got Bless, Refreshing Move. Now this is pretty standard on a Life Staff. It's kind of what we're looking for. And what we've found on New World Buddy is these two things. So Light, Amplify. This is the ability that this Life Staff is giving you, which is this thing down here. And you can see that it gives us having heavy attack pass through an ally while you have 3 stacks of this effect will reinforce them. So picking from reading that, you're going to need to use 3 Life Staff abilities. Duration max 10, so it'll stack it up for likely 10 seconds. And then using a heavy attack through your ally will reinforce them. Now if we come over here and we look at reinforced, and we come down here. Now if we come over here and we look at reinforced, we've got gain damage reduction for 1 hit, or as AGS calls it, hits, while this is active. So you've got to stack up 3 abilities, and you have to heavy attack through your allies, your friends, and it will give them damage reduction for 1 hit. I thought this was going to be really cool for PvE. This is going to be pretty bad. Now this is ABS protection, so you can see here buff Fortify. This is old Fortify, so this is actual damage reduction. So it'll be 30% damage reduction. If this said armor Fortify, and then it would just be boosting your physical and your elemental armor, like how we understand Fortify as it is today. So Heceta, the Life Staff will be likely for PvP as well. This will be, you know, dropping your abilities, stacking up your light's touch, and then just heavy attacking through your allies to give them a bit of extra protection. I don't see this being used at all in PvE. I'm picking a lot of kind of your noob pug healers are going to absolutely love this and thinking that they're saving their team. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't use it. I think, yeah, another PvP option where you're just kind of dropping heals and heavy attacking through your clump to cleanse the debuffs, try and boost them up a little bit. Bit of a miss on that one. We don't really have any good life staff artifacts, so it would have been nice to see something that could have been used in PvE, you know? All right, last up we have Fracture, the Void Gauntlet. Kind of a cool skin. Looks like it's been kind of stitched together here with bits of bone and bits of pieces. So this one is available through Darkness events. Now I think this is going to be Darkness events. They mentioned this in another poster about the Conqueror's items. So I think it's going to be kind of like a corruption portal. So I wouldn't be surprised if you can only get this on the seasonal servers at first, unless they're bringing these into the live servers. So we've got Mending Rupture, which increases the overflowing essence healing by 100%. And increases rupture damage by 50%. Keen and refreshing move. Now, how to get it? You complete major darkness events. Is that them just messing up the wording for a corruption portal? Or are you only going to be able to get this on the new seasonal server? That's going to be kind of the question there. This will be okay in PvE. It'll be useful. It's a nice, like, keen, refreshing move, and you'd look at putting, like, Disdain Infliction on this. It'll be good on bosses where healers usually switch to Mending Rupture, maybe on raids where they can run it the whole way through. Possibly, depending on how much healing this actually ends up giving out, you could end up in some high-level teams look at dropping a life staff and just relying on self-heals and essence rupture to keep you topped up. So that could be interesting. But overall, not really that exciting. So we've got Fracture, okay for PvE, life staff, PvP only, which will be like, okay. I think some people might come out, tell me it's broken for PvP. I don't know. I'm not a PvP main. Ice Gauntlet PvP, bow that's going to have some like niche PvE uses, and it might be right in PvP. You guys are going to have to tell me on that one. Fire Staff, I think that's going to be niche PvP as well, maybe paired with a blunderbuss. Try and stack your burns and then just burst them down. The Earring, I think, is pretty mid as well. It's not going to outvalue Elemental Band, and possibly it'll be good for like bruisers or people in clumps in PvP where you're taking a lot of hits. The other thing will be too is if that counts off dots. So let's say you're taking a lot of dot damage from some fire staffs. That could then be quite nice, you know. If it doesn't work off dots, then that really devalues the Earring. Musket, again, some PvP use. Whether that will outvalue having a finisher offhand, Mal Oreo will be the one to tell you on that one. And then the Rapier, which is absolute garbage, and AGS can stick it up their